Welcome to the Better Pairs podcast. Join Dr. Jason Fujikawa for his insights on theology, philosophy, culture, and the verbal expressions we use to relate meaning and reality to one another. Make no mistake, this is a podcast for nerds, but particular nerds who are searching for old wisdom made ever new. To learn more about the Better Pairs cultural empire, please visit betterpairs.com. Hello, this is Dr. Jason Fujikawa with Better Pairs. With this episode 3 of our first series of the podcast, I'm excited to announce a new way to contribute to the work of Better Pairs, keeping up the conceit of Better Pairs looking like from its webpage a full functioning orchard or mail order fruit catalog. We've developed the Better Pairs CSA, community-sponsored, community-supported analysis. It's a way for those in the listening audience, those who read the blog, to contribute to the development of these episodes. You can sponsor an episode, and included with that is the opportunity to dedicate the episode to share your gratitude, to honor a loved one, someone you hold in esteem. And there's directions on how to do that at the particular webpage for the CSA on the Better Pairs website. So check the description of this podcast for a link to that page. We're excited to bring the third episode here. This is an episode titled The Three Pars. I will be kicking off our dedication series with a special dedication to one of my former teachers, professors in college. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you subscribe to podcasts, and please enjoy the episode. The late Father Joseph Koterski, S.J., passed beyond the veil to his eternal reward a little over a year ago. As many have by this time filled the internet with articles and interviews recounting his virtues, principles, and unique gifts to his students and the church, it is clear to all that he would be a man truly missed in any age, all the more in an age such as ours. I first met him as my freshman medieval philosophy and theology professor at Fordham University in the spring of 2001. In that semester, he introduced me to St. Augustine through his Confessiones, Boethius in his Consolatio, St. Thomas Aquinas through his Summa Theologiae, and a certain Florentine exile midway through the journey of our life. It was that semester, the last of my generation's innocence, when I declared my major in theology. Later, it was Father Koterski's course on the human person, which would convince me to minor in philosophy and wake up for his 8 a.m. course my senior year. What I remember about him today, however, during my last year in the Bronx, was his invitation to join him and 2 other students for a reading group on the Federalist Papers, the work of John Jay, Madison, and Hamilton. There were no grades, no credit, just the chance to engage a pivotal primary text in the company of good friends. Though our group was absent Bosque and Bartlett, much of Better Pairs owes its roots to Father K. Episode 3, The Three Pars. That's just semantics is a common counter-argument volleyed against interlocutors prone to philosophic and philogistic accuracy. What remains unclear in such dialogues is whether unjust semantics would be more preferable. Semantics is often referred to as the study of word meanings by those in polite society who refrain from identifying it as the study of semen, or the plural semina, meaning seeds. Words are the seeds of linguistic expression, and intended communication harvests must begin with an intentional selection of seeds, that is, semantics. Etymology is a term often considered synonymous with semantics. However, its origin is more Hellenic than Latinate, from the 2 words έτῠμος, meaning true, and logos, meaning, well, nearly everything under and above the sun. but more commonly it means word, reason, or study. Thus, etymology is something like a study of the true meaning of words, and yet this explanation is unsatisfying over time. The exchange of seemingly arbitrarily arranged characters in English to more exotic, but nonetheless equally arbitrarily arranged characters in Greek, along with the defined meaning sprung forth like a magician's rabbit from the lexicography cartel, or as I call it, Big Lexi, is to trade linguistic servitude to Noah Webster for that of Liddell and Scott. What we desire is something that I call deep etymology. Professional linguistics researchers might have a different name for this approach, but they tend to award tenure for neologisms, not conventional taxonomy. In any case, deep etymology seeks to consider meaning beyond the dictionary definition of the verbal roots which phonetically or orthographically connect us to earlier generations of the human family. In addition to this connection to those who spoke and wrote before us, this deep etymology grounds us in reason, or logos, and shields us from the potentially overwhelming influence of ethos, or appeals from authority, and pathos, that is, appeals to our emotions. Arriving now at the human family, we encounter the deep etymological topic before us today. It seems that we have forgotten the essence of parenting. The use of the gerund parenting is intentional. Our problem is not specifically that we do not know who a parent is, although cases of dubious paternity exist, and dubious maternity far fewer by reason of umbilical cords. No, our problem concerns the nature of parenting. The question, what is a parent, points to the reality which is precisely not apparent. And this play on words nevertheless bears for us what is unknown. Have you ever thought about the three pars? The three Latin verbs which have the root par. They are the first conjugation verb paro parare, the second conjugation verb pareo parere, and the third conjugation verb pario parere. The question then is, which of these verbs is the essence of a parent? The least likely candidate of the first, paro, from the first conjugation. The morphological problem is that we are looking for the substantive participle parens, not parans. Still, the root par in this first conjugation instance retains something of the essence of the root, in that it means to prepare, make ready, make suitable. I had a professor of a strong Thomistic pedigree in graduate school who persisted in using the Latin word adequatio in his explanations of cognitive theory. That is, how what is sensed in the world is made present to the intellect by a certain adequation or adaptation of sensation to idea. Since he spoke with significant alacrity, commonly engaged in Latin-English code switching, and had adopted an ecclesiastical Latin pronunciation, I heard three words instead of one. I heard ide, quat, and sio. This went on for over half the course. I was not yet the quality of student who asked those kinds of clarifying questions at that point in my life. The point at present is that adequatio was precisely what was not happening every time I heard the word adequatio. That is, the sensation of hearing the spoken word was not connecting to its meaning in my intellect and fulfilling its purpose. Furthermore, I think this adequatio is the real sense underlying the root par, as all things prepared, such as a guest room, a gravesite, a warm bath, are made so by forming something material to be readily received by someone or something. Paro parare seems also to affirm at a fundamental level the movement of beings toward their end, as all preparation is ordered to some actualization, some fulfillment of an end or purpose. As to the question of parenting, it is true that parents prepare 9 months for their children in the womb and prepare the children themselves for adulthood after giving birth. Still, the essence of parenting remains more with the two remaining pars. Deftly shifting to the third conjugation, pario parere, in a way that would make Monty Hall proud, it seems that we may have hit pay dirt. This verb, which means to bear, give birth, is physiologically connected to the act, which conventionally establishes parents. As with our first par above, there is this adequatio between the parents and the child, what the philosophers call univocal generation, or like things begetting like things. Human beings beget human beings, not sea lions or random clumps of cells. Nevertheless, we need to deal with the pesky I in the present participial form, pariens parientis, not our desired parens parentis. To be honest, we should be glad that this is the case, as it is one of the great recurring tragedies of our current epoch that fatherhood and motherhood are equated with merely begetting and bearing a child, respectively. While nearly all subsequent parental responsibilities and actions would remain contrafactual without such a genesis, the restoration of genuine fatherhood and motherhood for the human family is etymologically vindicated by that pesky I. It might be helpful at this point to establish a counter-argument, namely that the heretofore pesky I is a vestigial morphology that was elided, snuffed out over centuries for the sake of pronunciation. That is, when in doubt, blame the French. Since the connection with parents and giving birth is so close, and what remains with the third par is a harder interpretation in both terms of meaning and moral response, could we not just remain here on this mountain and set up some booths? At last, we arrive at the third par, pareo parere, of the second conjugation. This is a verb that appears to have two meanings. On the one hand, it has the meaning to be evident, be visible, appear, be at hand. On the other hand is the extended meaning, to obey, to submit. At long last, parents or parentes are those who obey and submit to their children. It is either clearly evident that we did not truly understand the real power brokers in ancient Rome, or perhaps there is need to refine this position. What is the adequation here? A parent, or parens, is one who recognizes or is otherwise present to a reality which must be obeyed, or at least obedience is the proper response. What happens when a person becomes a parent? Granting that it takes two to tango and that the activity of each dancer is distinct though complementary, what happens? The parent's identity expands. That is, the number of who's benefiting from the highest degree of care and protection, which were once only applicable to the parent himself or herself, increases. A parent sees the child as an extension of self, to be quite literally protected under the same roof, cared for against all worries, and succored with the sweetness of mother's milk. St. Thomas Aquinas notes this parental responsibility in his treatment of the precepts of the natural law. Precepts operate like logical corollaries to principles. Now, the first practical principle, and here the natural law is an extension, is do good, avoid, and shun evil. The first precept logically derived from this, for us humans, is that our existence is good and we should seek to preserve ourselves. The second precept extends upon the first, commanding the propagation of the species and the education of the young. The second precept of the natural law draws us beyond our own individual needs and extends our love, our desired good for another, to the young entrusted to our care as parents. While the third precept of the natural law extends this self-identification beyond the household to broader society, it is to our present purpose to define parents as those who recognize the truth of their divinely instituted and natural responsibility to their children. Parenting is founded on prudence or practical wisdom, the habit or virtue of doing the right action according to right reason. Definitions of parenting founded on productivity, mere propagation, or even power err in mistaking what is only part for the whole. And the par of part is a par for another parlay. The views expressed by Better Pairs contributors are theirs alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of Better Pairs, its parent company, or any company or organizations affiliated with the contributors. For more information to support Better Pairs or to shop for Better Pairs merchandise, please visit betterpairs.com.